Okay, welcome everyone. Today we are doing Google Meet, and we are going to be talking about how to engage your students in a variety of ways using Google Meet. So the first thing I'm going to actually do is I'm going to ask you to go to this site, and I'm going to put this in the chat, and I would like you to type, what are you most looking forward to this weekend? It is Thursday, so only maybe one more day, or maybe you are going to start your weekend early like a couple of us are. So please click on that link in the chat and go ahead and type in your response. For those of you who just joined, you are going to this link. Those of you who are already in, you'll see it twice, but please go to that link and type in, what are you most looking forward to this weekend? I'll also type in my response. You are allowed to respond more than once if you would like. Excuse me. I'm going to give you about 30 more seconds. Get in your response. Okay, so what this is a tool that's called Poll Everywhere. So what you can do is you can do something as simple as I did with your students, and you can send them a link. And then the cool thing is, as a teacher, you can choose how you want your responses to be viewed. And you'll notice that it's updating live. So I picked to do a word cloud for my responses. So you can see that they are populating. If anything was entered in exactly the same twice, it would become larger. So that's just one feature in Poll Everywhere. And I will have a list of these resources available to you after the presentation. Jenny, I'm not sure if you could maybe just take down the names for me of those in attendance. That would be great. I'll directly email them to you, and then I'll also be posting them on our website. But you can notice a lot of people have mentioned family, so family is getting larger. Just one thing to get to know your students, or as a kind of icebreaker when you're doing a Google Meet. Sometimes it's really hard to be personalized when you are at a distance versus in a classroom, but this is one tech strategy that you can use. And again, this is Poll Everywhere. So the next thing we're going to talk about is when you're having a Google Meet with your students, it's really important to make sure you have those expectations set up. So I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that you can share those expectations with students. The first one is what you saw when you first popped on. Oh, not this one. Sorry. Here is an example of an anchor chart for students to use if you are going to be using Google Meet come fall. And I know that currently we don't know exactly what structure the school will be in yet, but chances are we're going to be fluctuating. We have to make sure we're being flexible. So at some point you might be using a Google Meet in the fall. Again, here is just one example. I really like this example because it's very clear and easy to read for students, right? They have images and then pictures. So here's one example. We also have a couple of examples that are on our website. So if you go to our website under Resources for Teachers, and again, I'll send you all of these links. At the very bottom, Sarah, one of our tech coaches, made these posters as well. So the first one I showed you was not made by anyone in our department. However, it was shared with the community saying that feel free to use it. These are more specific ones that our team has kind of pulled together and thought of, and you're more than welcome to use these with your students as well. So we have the one on the left, which is geared towards students. And you'll notice on our website you can click this link and it will make a copy for you so that you can edit it and make sure that it fits your needs of your classroom. There's also Netiquette, we call it, or etiquette for adults. And again, this could be for Google Meet or Zoom. You would probably want to adjust that before you push this out to your students and make sure you say Google Meet so they're not confused. But here's just some more information on, best practices when you're doing a Google Meet. A lot of it is probably, it's just habit now, right? You come onto a meet and you usually mute yourself or you decide if you want your camera on or not. And again, some of these are personal preference, but this is just out there if you're interested in using it. So those are two examples. The last example I'm going to show you, I actually just came across yesterday, and I thought it was kind of fun for younger students. Again, I did not make this one, but I will give you an example. And this teacher created her own Google Meet expectations, and she put her Bitmoji in there, made it a little bit more personalized for those younger students. I would probably, if I was using this, pare it down a little bit. You'll notice she has a lot of rules and expectations on here. I would maybe pick, the top 6 that you would like, and then depending on the age of your students, roll out more or adjust it based on what you're seeing in your Google Meets. But again, I thought this was a cute example of how you can, put yourself in there. And when we're talking about virtual learning or distance learning, one of the things that's most important is making sure that your personality comes through as a teacher, right? That's why we are all teachers, because we like interacting with kids, and they want to see that your face. Also, when we're talking about Google Meet, there's been a lot of questions about, okay, well, what is appropriate? What is an appropriate length of time for a Google Meet? And there's no hard and fast rule for time limit on a Google Meet. However, I am encouraging all of you to think about best practices in the classroom, because your best practices in your classroom are going to be your best practices on a Google Meet. For example, if you're standing in front of a class of kindergartners, what's their attention span, right? So that's going to be the exact same things you're going to want to do on a Google Meet. And to be honest, depending on what you're doing in a Google Meet, you might even have to shorten that time limit. So if their attention span is 10 minutes in the classroom, when you're right in front of them, think about, okay, well, what if there's a screen between you? You might have to be like 5 minutes. Or do some of these engaging activities, right? So talk for a little bit about your lesson or what you want to get across, and then do one of these fun things where you have them do an activity. So just some things to keep in mind if you are planning on running Google Meets in the fall. Think about what is feasible for the age of the student and their attention span. Okay, I'm going to pause right there. If there are any questions, please feel free to unmute or throw them in the chat. And then I'm going to show you some other things that you can use with Google Meet, some additional fun activities. So are there any questions?
There was just one on how to do Bitmojis, and I'm looking to pull up. I think Sarah had a video on our site, so I was just checking on the link there.
Yeah, so Sarah did throw a video about Bitmojis. Hers was more geared towards creating customized banners for Google Forms or like a Google Classroom. However, the information that she has in that video would also walk you through how to get the extension, I believe, and just kind of set it up yourself. Great question. I will tell you for Bitmojis that there is a Chrome extension, which is the easiest to use when you are doing Google Slides or Docs or email. However, to set up your Bitmoji, you will have to download the app on your smartphone. You cannot set up your Bitmoji on the web version. You have to use a phone app. Just something to clarify. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is some tools that you can use while having a Google Meet. One that I'm going to show you is Jamboard, and we did have a session on that earlier this summer already. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time showing you how to use it, but I will just make you aware of what it is. And if you're interested in learning more, again, you could reach out to your technology coach or also watch that video that's already on our website. So Jamboard is a Google product. To access it, you would click on the Google Apps icon in the top right corner. And you might have to scroll down, but Jamboard is this J with the circle and the square. And what Jamboard is it's Google's whiteboard. Okay, so you'll notice that all of your jams are kind of saved here. And you can actually push out Jamboards on Google Classroom. So if you are a Google Classroom user, you can do that. And to create a new jam, I'm going to click the plus in the bottom right-hand corner. And again, you'll notice that this is just a whiteboard. So as a teacher, you can use this if you want to model something or show something. You can add collaborators. So if you are doing a Google Meet with a small group of students, or even maybe the entire class, and you want to do a brainstorming session, you can share one board with multiple people, and they would all have access to it to add whatever you would like. The other nice thing is, in Jamboard, you do have the ability to have multiple pages in a single jam. So for example, this is page 1 of 1. Now I'm on page 2 of 2. So if I was doing this with a class, maybe I would say, okay, on page 1, I want group 1 to brainstorm. On page 2, I want group 2 to brainstorm. Ooh. And then again, as a teacher, I have access to this and I can show it live on a Google Meet what you guys are brainstorming. So I have my group 1 and whatever they choose to add, and then also my group 2. So just another thing that you can use on a Google Meet. Another example is called Padlet. So let me, I'm going to throw this in the chat so you can kind of play around with it again. Excuse me. So again, if you can click that link in the chat, it should bring you to this page. It might ask you to log in with Google, and that's okay. What a Padlet is, while you're getting there, it's a tool that you can use to help students brainstorm. And actually, there's a variety of ways to use Padlet. But, you know, if I was using this on a Google Meet, I would pose a question to my students. So, the question that I would like you to write about is, what was your favorite subject in school? To add a response, you are going to click the plus in the bottom right-hand corner, and then you can start typing. So again, what was your favorite subject in school? And I'll do mine too as well. As you are also typing, you'll notice there's some additional features that you can do just besides putting your text in. You can upload documents. That's the little arrow with the line underneath it. You can link it to outside sources. So if you're brainstorming, you know, favorite books, and maybe you wanted your students to link it to an epic book or something along those lines. You can also Google things and add pictures. If you click on the 3 dots, you also have a ton of different options, like recording your audio. So students can record their voice and put it on the Padlet for others to listen to. And there's just a lot of great options. So I'm done, so I'm going to hit enter. Oops, not enter, sorry. I'm going to click off of it. And again, you'll notice that it is now updated with all of your responses. So I can show the students what we're brainstorming together on our Google Meet. You do have a lot of options and control as a teacher, whether or not you want it to be anonymous, or if you want to have students' names on that. That's, again, in the setup of a Padlet. I will let you know that Padlet is a freemium, so that means that you get so many Padlets free. I believe it's 3. But the cool thing is you can always archive them and then create new ones. So as long as you weren't planning on using them for a long period of time, you can continue to use it throughout the school year. And I've never upgraded and had a problem, and I like to use it all the time for my PD sessions. So again, this is Padlet, and I'm just going to show you some other cool things that you can do with Padlet. So this is my teacher dashboard, and you'll notice I actually have more than 3, because a tip is if you invite other people, you can get additional pads. So I've invited my personal email addresses, and I was able to get some additional ones, but I only have 5. So another one that I'm just going to show you is you can set it up in multiple ways. So the first one was just randomly placed on the wall. This one is using columns, so it's a KWL chart. And then students have the ability to brainstorm what they know, what they want to know, and what they learned. And they're going to be adding responses instead of in the bottom right-hand corner. They can just click underneath each column and add a response there. So just another really cool way to use Padlet. There's also maps. So if you wanted to place things on different locations, and I'll show you real quickly some of those options. Oh, and it's going to tell me my limit's reached. So let me archive one real quick. I'll archive this one. Oops. Okay, so if I want to make a Padlet, here's all the different options that you have. So again, I just did a wall for the one we did together, but you can have grid view, stream, map, timelines. The options are really endless. Okay, so that's a little bit about Padlet, another thing that you can do. Also consider when you are using a Google Meet, some engaging ways would be having a game with students. So for example, if you wanted to use quizzes, which again we had a session on earlier this year, or earlier this summer, that is a fun interactive game that you can play with students virtually. Another one is called Kahoot, okay? So this is where you as a teacher can create a game, you can manage it, students look on their devices, and then they're also can see it on your screen. Another option for engaging students is Pear Deck. And again, I'll send you links to all of these things. Pear Deck is a Google Slides add-on. So if you would like to use Google Slides presentations with your students, and maybe it's a slightly longer lesson or a slightly longer Google Meet, you can add Pear Deck questions, which are built in, and then the students would respond on their own device, and it really helps keep that engagement up. Okay, I'm going to pause there if there are any questions about, and these are just some ideas, but I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions before we move on to a couple more things that we want to talk about before we end today. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is Google Meet in general. So you may have heard or read or seen that Google Meet will be having some updates eventually. We've been hearing that from Google all summer, and because our Zoom subscription is going to end, we are suggesting that teachers use Google Meet as their main mode of online instruction. So a couple things that I want you to be aware of is that we have Google for Education, which means we are given certain items for free because we are a nonprofit, we are an educational domain. There is additional options under Google Suite Enterprise, which would be something that the district would have to pay for, and we are not currently paying for that. So as you are reading or learning about different features of Google Meet, make sure to check and see, is it for enterprise users or for educational users? A couple things that we've heard about are like breakout rooms, which would be awesome. Unfortunately, it sounds like that's going to be for enterprise users. So that is not something that we are going to get as a district at this time. So I did want to share a workaround for that because I know that's something that everyone would love. And it's not perfect, unfortunately, but if you would like to do breakout rooms with your students, I recommend creating a document similar to this, where you have the students already broken off into different groups. And then on this document, you would obviously share this via your students, whether it's Google Classroom or maybe, PowerSchool, whatever platform you use. And then the students that are in room 1 would click on this link, and it would take them into a Google Meet, and so forth. And then you as a teacher, unfortunately, would can hop in and out of different breakout rooms as needed. So in this situation, I have 4 different Google Meet links set up. So this Google Meet link would take me into one room. This one would be a second, and so forth. So just one thing to keep in mind as you are thinking about how to use Google Meet come the fall. Another thing that is brought up is extensions on Google Meet. And I will show you a couple extensions that people have used in our district. I want to make sure that it's very clear that these extensions are not spectacular. So use at your own caution. And all the extensions would require you as a teacher to have it on your device, and also your students to have them. So by no means am I recommending this, but if you are someone that's like, I just really, really want an easier way to do some of these things, I want to make you aware that they are out there. But again, use at your own caution. So there is a Google Meet attendance. This one is probably the best one out of all the extensions. So if you would like, you are the only one that needs to have this. Your students do not need to have this extension. This is the one exception. And what it will do is it will give you a list of all of the people who are on your Google Meet. So as a teacher, if you have a large class and you want to know who attended, and you don't want to take the time to scroll down the list and see, you could add this extension. And again, this is probably the best one of the 3 that I'm going to show you. There is Google Meet Plus. This one, again, is you would have to have it as a teacher and your students. A word of caution for this one specifically is there's a lot of really fun things that you can do, but then remember your students can also do it. So for example, there is a built-in whiteboard here, although I would suggest using Jamboard. Students can send emojis during your session. They can do like thumbs up or type questions. But again, I think it's going to be more distracting than anything else. Just want to make you aware of that. And then the last one is they do have a Google Meet breakout rooms. Again, this would be one that you and your students would have to both have. I played around with it and it is confusing. So again, if you're looking for extensions, just be wary of them. And if there's something that you really want to do on Google Meet, please reach out to your tech coach first, and maybe we can find a workaround that would be better for you and less frustrating. So that's what I'm going to say about that. The last thing is so in addition to breakout rooms, we've heard that the record a meeting in Google Meet, so you'll notice everyone has that option currently. That will be going away. It sounds like that is going to be also moving to the enterprise version of Google Meet. So if you are someone who likes to record your meetings in Google Meet, whether it's because students are absent and you want them to be able to view it later, or for personal reasons, for protection of yourself, there's some workarounds. So what I would recommend using is Loom. And when you use Loom, you can choose what you would like to record. So for example, on this session, I am not recording our session using Google Meet. I'm recording using Loom. And there's a couple of reasons I like to do that, but you'll notice that I can pick what I would like to record. So would I like to record my entire desktop? Would I like to record just a certain tab? And then it's automatically saved into Loom for you. You can access it via your Loom account. There is no time limit, and you can have as many recordings as you would like. So that's one thing that I would mention. The only downside is it, unlike in Google Meet, where your recording would be directly saved in your Google Drive, again, Loom is saved in their Loom website, but you do have the ability to download it, and then you could upload it to your Drive if needed. I like using Loom because you'll notice I am only recording the screen that I am sharing with you. So you actually won't, if you go to watch this later, you won't see my face in the bottom corner or off to the side. So that's why I like using Loom. But again, that's a workaround. So if come the fall, you notice that record a meeting has disappeared from your Google Meet, that is again because Google decided to update it and move it to the enterprise system. Okay, to wrap up, if there are any questions, please unmute, but I do have one more final activity that I'd like you to do. And this is, what fun activities have you done with your kids on Google Meet? Or maybe what activities do you want to do come the fall? And you can click that link. I put it in our chat. So what ideas do you have, or what have you done that maybe I haven't shared, or that I have shared? That's okay. And feel free to enter more than one response if you would like. While you're typing that in, I will share one additional thing with you that you can do. This takes a little bit more prep work on the teacher end, but in addition to Kahoot and quizzes, there is the ability to play board games. So I will share this with you, and it's been shared a couple times this summer, so you might already have this. But again, our team did not create this. We found this and they were willing to share. But you could potentially set up either breakout rooms or small groups and have students play virtual games with each other. I know that a kindergarten teacher that I worked with set up like game time during the spring with their students because they were missing their friends. So she monitored the room. She was in there with them and helped them move the pieces around, right? So because they're kindergarten students. And they really enjoy getting to see their friend and playing a game with them. And there's a bunch of different games listed here. So again, I'll share that. But let's see, what fun activities have you done with students? Let's refresh that real quick. Whoa, am I the only one? And that's okay if I'm the only one that entered things in, but oh, here they come. There they go. So this is just another way that you can present information. Unlike the word cloud, this would just be text popping up. But there are so many different ways that you can use Pull Everywhere, and you get to pick that when you set that up. And again, this is a free account. You could upgrade, but I don't see a reason to. Okay. On this document, on the games document, there are some teacher instructions. So how to make sure your students have access and share it. There are not specifically instructions for how to play each specific game. For example, if your students don't know how to play Mancala, you would have to teach them that. but there are instructions for how you can share it with students. So, great question. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you for taking some time to be with us today. And if you have any questions, please let us know. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend.